Right, everyone. I guess people joining in afterwards. Welcome to this week's edition of my attempt to bring railroad diagrams to Python documentation. It'll probably mean rewriting the reference language documentation entirely in the end. So where are we? Last time on the stream, which was 2 weeks ago, I added these auto-generated fragments of the grammar that are now in my branch in the documentation. Last week, while I was not on the stream, I added it to all the other parts of the documentation. So we now have these giant blobs of grammar to work with. Today I would like to somehow style them better. For example, this grammar specification here puts statements in square brackets, and I guess the grammar file itself does the same thing. Yep. But what I did here is use this question mark. Need to see how that got in. Oh, I see somebody joined. Hello. Feel free to use your mic if you want. So I last touched this 2 weeks ago, so let me get my bearings. So what I have is, for now, there's a script in tools, peg generator, peggen, docs fragment generator, and this script parses the Python grammar using the peg generator or peg parser that is already in Python, and it also uses this this one, I need to close that one, this doc data peg top level rules.txt, and this is the list of everything that appears in the grammar. So the way it works, when I generate this file input, it has some statements, so I generate the statements also, which has statement, I generate the statement, but this compound statement and simple statements are documented somewhere else. I guess this part of the docs, so I don't add them to this fragment. So the script needs basically this list of every rule that I want documented. Hope that makes sense. And that script generates this peg data.json, which then gets put in the docs through a Sphinx extension. So this is not the final layout of this effort, but it's the way I got it to work. And what I would like to do now is, well, one thing I would like to try is see if I can put this right hand side, which is this part, into the production Sphinx object in a way that it's parsed. So I wanted to try if one of these strings is the right thing to use. I'm not really sure what this production Sphinx node takes here, and I just wanted to try what that is before diving into the docs. And I remember I had a really complicated way to run this. I guess that would be Sphinx build. Something like that. So that'll run my script and run Sphinx. And running Sphinx always takes a long time. So over on Discord, Cam suggested to remove all the parts of the documentation that I don't want generated. Just delete it from the disk, and that might speed things up. Of course, I need to put it in a git commit and then revert. Right, let's see what that came up, that generated. Ah, so that's that put another copy of that text in, but it didn't parse, I guess. It didn't link this compound statement, or did it? Would it? There's this ID. There's this ID, and I guess I need to match that. So what happens if I put test in here? 'Cause I haven't been able to find much useful documentation for the DocuTools nodes. Let's see. There's production. That's the directive. Ah, so there's raw source and text. Ah. Yeah, maybe that would maybe that's a good hint for something. I'm not really sure what this raw source and text does. And the test doesn't appear anywhere, it seems. So yeah, from the argument names, it would be nice if I could just put the text in here. I guess put nothing in here, maybe, or remove this entirely. But I guess this raw text isn't parsed. I wonder what the raw text is, or the raw source. Raw source gets passed into the init of either nodes inline or this class's injector. And that's from docutils. And docutils doesn't really have too much of reference documentation as far as I know. So when I did that, yeah, this whole thing is empty. So I guess I'll stick to putting the rule as a text node, and then I need to either parse it myself or look into a way for Sphinx to parse it for me, maybe. Like maybe just output it as text and pass it to the Sphinx parser, which I really don't like to do it when I have structured data. I don't like to convert it to text and let something parse it again, but don't know of a good way to proceed here. Anyway, so that was something I wanted to try. I'll think about that more later. The main thing I wanted to do today is to stop using the string representation. And somewhere in the result and the generate related rules, I put in the string representation of the rule's right hand side. So there's the rule name, there's the rule right hand side. Those are the two things you see here. And the string representation that comes with these nodes is not really what I'm looking for, so I'll customize that. And instead of stir, I will call it pretty format, or format node. Right, so I format node, and how I format that node depends on what the node is. So I guess the best thing nowadays to do here is to match on the node, and I'll write down the cases later. If this doesn't match, then I want to raise an error. Node has unknown type. Right. The statements as unknown type. Yeah, I really want to have the wrapper here and have the type of the node. Right, blah 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 as unknown type RHS. So from the pagan grammar, I import RHS and add a case for RHS. RHS means right hand side. And how do I format the right hand side of a rule? So I can look into grammar and see what RHS is. RHS is something that has, I guess, a list of alternatives. So I will basically format all the alternatives and separate them with this pipe, just like the stir does, basically. Except instead of stir, I'll call my format node function. It's not self, it's node, because I'm not in the class itself. And it's a capture expression, so it needs parentheses here with the type name. Right, I got further. Now I have unknown type alt. So what is alt? Alt is one of the alternatives, and it has items. And in this case, is the items come one after the other. And what happens in the built-in stir? They're just joined by spaces. And there's switch called simple stir. True. Global flag, whether we want actions in the stir default off. Okay. So if we want actions and there is an action, then the action is appended to that. We don't want it. So for alt, we just join everything with spaces. And I guess I need to return all of these. And this is basically the same thing I'll do for the Railer diagrams as well, except instead of converting to string, I'll convert to SVG. So I guess that's just practice, and we have node instead of self. Right, so we got a bit further. Now we have named item. And named item is a piece of the grammar that has a name. And if I look at the grammar itself, lots of things have names like A, and I guess there's B and C. And I haven't seen too many names which are meaningful. Well, maybe T is short for type and stuff like that. But I think it's okay to just leave the name out. So there's a name and an item. And when I get a named item, I just format the item I have. Alright, so in the case this is an named item, I delegate to the node.item and I format that node. Okay, I need to import it as well. It's probably easier to use the whole module name instead of importing everything. So now I have unknown type opt. That's optional, I assume. So let's make sure. Opt has a node inside it, and the stir we have here says decide whether to use square brackets or question mark based on the type of X. Ooh. So if there's a space in the subnode, we use square brackets. Otherwise, we use a question mark. Now that's really interesting. Is that actually used in the anywhere? I guess in the grammar specification, it always uses the square brackets. And in guess there was a description of the grammar somewhere that didn't include the question mark. So oh, and the old documentation also uses square brackets. So I think it'll be much less confusing if I just stick to the square brackets everywhere and not use question marks at all. I wonder if I should just change the stir here, but I guess that's more of a debug output. So if something's optional, it goes in square brackets. So blah, blah, blah. Instead of named item, I have opt. Instead of node.item, I have node.node. And I add square brackets. Maybe it would be nice to use f strings here, but there's too many too many braces with f strings and brackets and stuff like that. Right, then we have name leaf. What is name leaf? Name leaf is the value is the name. So name leaf is a token, I guess. And it says the value is the name. Oh, so I guess it's not a token, but another rule. Either another rule or a token name. Something that's defined somewhere else in the grammar, or at least it should be. So in this case, this uses the super string, which is just self.value. Okay, so if I have name leaf, then I return the node's value. And this does one more thing, which is return the $sign for end marker, which the old documentation doesn't use. There's no end marker here. And I don't know if there's an end marker in the existing docs. No, there's not. But there is end marker in the full grammar specification. And I think end marker is used if you disassemble or get the tokens from a piece of Python code. You'll also see the token end marker. So I would like to not use this $sign as a special case for this end marker, and just use the token name itself. I think that is a bit more verbose, but it makes the docs clearer. And it'll only be used in this little page for complete Python programs. I don't think the dollar appears anywhere else. By the way, if you joined the Discord, welcome. Feel free to ask any questions if you want. What do we have next here? There's repeat 1. Repeat 1 has unknown type. Right, repeat 1. There's repeat 0 and there's repeat 1. So repeat 0 is 0 or more, so the star here. And repeat 1 is 1 or more, so the plus here. And again, the stir here was probably meant to be very fancy, but I don't think it's really used anywhere. So this can put the argument in parentheses, and then it adds the symbol. So interesting. So it does that depending on whether there's a space in the rule. And I guess if there's a space, that means it's a complex rule that has some kind of separators or these pipes. And I guess this is meant to make things correct when, for example, the alternatives are nested inside inside a grammar rule or something like that. So I guess for now I will put in the parentheses and then decide on when I can drop them. Might be best. So we again have the node as we have in here, so it's similar to this opt. So repeat one would have these parentheses, and it's one or more, so plus. I guess I can do the repeat 0 as well, and do the star. Right, what do we have then? We have positive look ahead, which is usually used for optimization only in the grammar, and I wonder if it's actually in here. So that's denoted by the ampersand. Yeah, so that's these things. So the grammar only so the rule only matches if, for example, close parenthesis here follows this optional type comment. Otherwise, it doesn't match, but it doesn't consume the parenthesis. And Guido said this is used for optimization only. It usually doesn't change the meaning of the grammar if I drop it. So I decided for the first iteration of the pull request, I'll just drop these entirely, and that means somewhere in the docs, in the description of these grammar rules, I need to say they're not precise. They're just meant to give you an idea of what's happening, and if you want the precise grammar, then you should really go in here and take it all at once, right? So positive look ahead is ignored. I will return nothing. Then we have a string leaf. A string leaf is similar to named leaf, but it has quotes. So it's not a token name or a rule name, but it's literal text in the source. So it's either a symbol, like let's see an example somewhere. So it's a symbol like this, where you want a literal semicolon, or it's a keyword like that. And I think there's a convention that single quotes mean keyword or symbol, and if there's double quotes, that's a soft keyword. Right, so that's this grammar, not the old documentation. Right, so how do I format that? Well, there's no star here, so it just gets the value. It's the same as name leaf here, so I will use and I guess the shared base class leaf. So I might just put in leaf instead of name leaf or string leaf, but I have a feeling I'll need to split these out later, so I'll keep it like that. What do I have then? I have negative look ahead, which is same as positive except it looks backwards, and I want to ignore that. So negative look ahead, ignore that. What's next? And there's gather, which I haven't really seen in too many formal grammar specifications. And gather, I guess it's explained in Python.gram. Gather is this thing. It matches one or more occurrences of some expression or some piece of grammar separated by a separator. So if you're a mathematician, you would write this. So there's the expression, and then you can have separator expression as many times as you'd like. But it's really easier to just write it like that. So there's the separator dot expression plus. So now for the documentation, do I use this, or do I write it out so people familiar with formal grammars can get it more easily? I think it's better to use this syntax. I'll do that. If that's weird and confusing, it can always be changed later, I guess. Let's also look at hints in the grammar.py. I have gather here, so there's gather, and it says self.separator dot self.node plus. So I'll just reuse that for now, at least. Let's put it above the ignored ones. I have node instead of self, which is getting a bit confusing. Right, then I have this type forced. Forced is a relatively new addition, as I've heard. So where do I have forced? Apparently it doesn't have a ripper, as all the other ones do. And it's denoted by these 2 ampersand signs. And basically what it... it's also not documented in the documentation. But basically what it means is that some piece of the grammar has to match. Otherwise the whole rule will fail. And as far as I know, it's only added as an optimization so far. So I'll do something similar to the look-aheads, the positive and negative, and I'll just ignore this. But I can't ignore it altogether. I have to actually match the node itself. I'll just ignore the part that it's forced, that the parsing will fail if it doesn't match. Right, so if we have forced, I will format the node inside, which is, I guess, similar to this opt. And I will only put in the node. Okay, then there's cut. Cut is another feature of the Peg grammar, which well, basically when you get to the cut in the grammar, you commit, or the parser commits to the option that it's currently parsing, and doesn't try any other options, as far as I know. And again, this is an advanced feature, something I'd like to leave to the full grammar, at least for now, so the first-time reader isn't isn't confused by it, so I'll treat it the same as the look-aheads, and I'll just cut it out. Right, what is next? Then we have a group. What is a group? I guess in the grammar, a group is just something that's in parentheses. Let's look for an example here. Here, so the ampersand means this is a look-ahead, and it's grouped look-ahead, so it's in the parentheses. I wonder if parentheses are actually used anywhere else in the meta grammar. Who knows? So a group has a right-hand side, and it puts it in parentheses. So right, so it's similar to these repeat and an opt. Instead of node, it has RHS. Well, I guess that's the type of the node inside, and that's it. This is now able to format all of Python's grammar and output it into the docs. And I guess it will be almost the same as whatever I have now, except it'll have these parentheses added. Oh, there's the extra star here. I don't want that. It'll have extra parentheses added, and it will use square brackets instead of the question marks, and it'll have some stuff ignored. How does that look when it's actually in the grammar? This is much better than before. This is slightly worse than before. I wonder if I need a fancy algorithm to decide when I need to add parentheses and when I don't. Maybe the space is enough, actually. Right, this looks pretty nice. Let's look at the other ones. I guess the main thing that changed is we now have the square brackets instead of the question marks. So that's nice. Now there's another thing that I would like to do to simplify these giant grammar listings, and that is getting rid of these invalid rules, because the invalid rules in the grammar, well, for once, they don't show up on the documentation page. There's start of invalid rules, and that's an empty section. If I look at the actual source file, there's start of invalid rules, and then there's a big section listing rules starting with invalid. And what happens here is the parser will ignore these rules entirely until you get a syntax error. And when you get a syntax error, it will reparse everything, including these invalid rules. And that way it can give you a better exception. Right, so all of these invalid rules have this raise syntax error, and when you hit them, you get an exception that doesn't say unexpected token comma, but it says what it actually expected, or did you forget something, or expected a comma between these two things, and things like that. So it's this is Pablo's work. This is the nice error messages you get, and each new Python version brings a few more of these. But for the documentation of the grammar, we can ignore these entirely. So first thing I'll do is remove them from these listings. Well, actually, first thing I do is commit. I've done a good amount of work with this format node, so I'll just put it in Git. And I guess I'll have something unsaved. So what I will do is ignore the invalid rules. One thing I could do is in this generate related rules, and if I see that the rule's name starts with invalid, then I don't do anything. I return an empty list. Let's see what that does. Oh, now I see a comment from YouTube. In case the docs include the rules starting with invalid, look-aheads do have semantic meaning. Thankfully, we lie to the reader and we don't show invalid rules at all. Guess I got to that late. Okay, so invalid rules are gone, which didn't really make this too much simpler. But one bad thing here is that we still have invalid arguments, an invalid else statement, an invalid start expression, things like that inside the actual rules. So I guess what I'll do here is remove them somehow. So if I get invalid arguments as one of the items of one of the options of the RHS, then I ignore that option entirely. And that might simplify things. So how do I do that? I would need to go in here, but the opt, it has another node which is a name leaf, which starts with a value. So one thing I could do here is, in case I have an I can't really destructure the RHS here, can I? So what I would do is maybe convert this to a real for loop, check if this item is name leaf whose value starts with invalid, something like that. But what I actually want to do here is anytime there's an invalid rule inside one of anytime I see an invalid rule referenced, I want to throw out the whole option, right? And I don't really care how deep it is, or if there's, you know, a named item decorating it, or if it's optional, or repeated, or in a gather, or whatever. I just want to throw out the whole option if it includes any kind of invalid rule. Which to me sounds like a use case for an exception. I just raise an exception when I see this and throw it at the level I want. I want things gone. So let's see. The level I want things gone at is this RHS, and RHS is short for a list of options. So option representations, I'll start with an empty list, convert this to a real for loop, append the formatted all to here, and then join them all together. And why I did a for loop here is because now I can do a try and accept invalid rule included, and in that case I do nothing, right? And when I see an invalid rule, which would be a name leaf here, so I need to separate these two. So if it's a name leaf, and if the node starts, if the node value starts with invalid, then I raise this invalid rule included. And what is invalid rule included? That is an exception. It says an invalid rule was encountered or refusing to format an invalid rule. A refusal. Okay, enough wordsmithing here. So Lysandra says it would make sense to put parentheses around groups but not repeats. Yeah. That's a good point. So there's, it seems there are two kinds of nodes that like whose items are sequential. There's this alt. Oh, and that's it. That's the only one that has a sequence of nodes that need to match one after the other, right? There's a group, it just has one child, and that child is actually RHS, which is a list of options. And we don't put parentheses around the Whoa. What happened here? Sphinx just ate all my memory? Was it Sphinx? Yeah. Huh. I hope the recording didn't pause. Wow. Yeah, so I hope it'll be okay now. So yeah, back to the comment. I guess a group is the like what can this node be? This can be anything, right? Maybe the only way to get an RHS in here is through a group or something like that. If this node is an RHS directly, then I need to put parentheses around it. I guess I would need to look in the metagrammar. Okay, but back to what I was doing, removing the invalid rules from everywhere, and I hope that worked. No invalids anymore. I wonder how it's done in the full grammar specification. It says that rule names starting with invalid are blah blah blah. Then it doesn't really use any of them except for one in default. For some reason, there's a reference to invalid default here, and I wonder why that is. How is that generated, actually? Now there's grammar RST, and it says literal include with language peg. Oh dear. Okay. Yeah, so the thing that removes the invalid rules from the documentation here is the syntax highlighter. Peg highlight. Yep, this is a Pigment's syntax highlighting elixir. and it strips variable assignments, actions, and rules name. Oh well, that's a very creative use of a syntax highlighter. Yeah. So there's a bug in this. It doesn't strip invalid default from default. And I have no idea how to debug this. I guess that is not too bad of a bug, especially since there's a comment that says, you know, what invalid rules are used for. But I just hope it doesn't strip more than is actually needed. That would be the worst kind of bug. Anyway, yeah, let's not get too deep into this thing. This will not help me strip the invalid. Oh wait, there's incorrect as well. What? No, there's no incorrect. Invalid syntax? What? Isn't this only invalid rules? No, I'm getting too deep into this. This will not help me strip invalid rules. I'm afraid. So back to these parentheses. Do I need parentheses? I should look in the metagrammar, I guess. So this is the grammar of the grammar. And there's alts. And I guess alts can happen in parentheses here and parentheses here. So that's the group, that's the opt, and in the top level RHS here. And that's the only places they can appear in a group, in an optional element, or in an options element. This is, wait, what is this? This is optional. Alts. And the alts, oh, the alts is an RHS. Okay, it makes sense now. So the RHS, which is a list of options, can only appear in a group, or in the square brackets, or at the top level of a rule. So, and what about the other operators here? The star is in front of an atom, which is a group, a name, or a string. Same here. Separators are atom as well. So yeah, atom is either parenthesized inside a group, or it's very simple. Right. So yeah, so that's well, Lisandros is right, of course he is right, because he worked on this. So I only need to put the plus and star after the repeats. I don't have to parenthesize those. let's see if that makes things clearer now. So that was things like this, and I guess we can always see we have either something very simple or we have double double parentheses here. What is this? Did that happen? Oh yeah, the space here, I know how that happened. There's probably some ignored thing here, some look ahead or some cut or something like that, whose representation is the empty string, but there's still the space separator there. So that's something I need to fix. Alright, when I'm joining things with a space, then I need to filter out the things that don't format to anything, right? And I guess the best thing to do here is to use real for loop again. And if the item wrapper is anything truthy, and then I added then I have the item wrappers, and hopefully that space here will disappear once things is done. Here, this really needs some more advanced simplification. I have a feeling some of these are documented in more places than really needed. I guess I need to put each one in one place only. But in which one? Huh. Also, now that it's not handwritten, some of these rule names are very long, and some of these other expansions are very long. I should probably split these into separate lines, which won't really help with this one, but might make things clearer. Now this will need a lot of work to make it as clear as the original. Maybe I need to inline things like strings here into this. Oh no, there's strings here as well. Oh, I see. There's strings here, but it's not linked. The strings rule that's referenced in the old documentation is not defined anywhere. Oh, and there's a comment. I always see this with the delay, I think. So Lissandro said, in the star target rule, negative look-aheads do have real meaning. So the bug might be related to that. I don't know which bug was that. Star target. Was that with the invalid default? No. Sorry, I don't know which bug that was. Oh, this one, the space. No, we're gonna extra space anytime we leave something out of the grammar, so we definitely don't want that. Right. Yeah, we definitely want to leave the space out if we ignore something in the grammar. Whether the look-aheads do have meaning or not, so even if they don't have meaning, I'll choose to remove them from this version of the grammar, because I don't think this is really useful as, you know, the definitive reference of all the edge cases that can happen. Right? People will read this to you know, figure out what a for statement looks like, and it's probably good to have the formal-ish grammar here. The railroad diagrams based on it will be even more clear. But I definitely think that if somebody wants edge cases, like, you know, which of two options to pick, they should look at the full grammar instead, and that has the cuts and the look-aheads. Right? We should be clear that this is not the super formal actual thing, but something that should, you know, give you a better idea of what the grammar is. Alright, so what do we do next here? So one thing we could do is change the structure of the grammar. So here, if we have statements, which is optional, and it's just statement plus, then what I would do is inline the statement plus into here. And once I have the optional repeat, then I would change that into a star. I wonder, so Lysandros, I wonder what you would say to that. So given that explanation that I just made, I think it's okay to get rid of some of these rules and rewrite these. So let's see what that would look like. I'll put that in a temporary file. So instead of this, statements would be replaced by statement plus. And then statement plus, which is optional, should be replaced by statement star. And that then we don't need statement anymore, so we can just do this. Right? And hopefully this is much clearer than the original. The question is, can I write some kind of algorithm that will always make it clearer, or make it clear in enough cases to make it worth it? And another question is it okay to diverge from the full grammar in this way? Right, so Lisandro said inlining rules is correct. The need for extra rules is affected by actions. I don't like. Why are you doing this, YouTube? I can't read this. The need for extra rules is affected by actions, but those are not in the docs, right? Yeah, I guess actions or the invalid error handling and stuff like that causes an explosion of rules, which we don't need. One thing I am worried about is whether we can whether I can successfully detect the rules that I want to inline and the ones that I want to keep separate. If I'm not able to do that, then I might go as far as proposing to put some put something in the grammar itself, like some kind of note that says please inline this in the documentation for me, and hopefully the grammar maintainers will like that. If not, well, the docs will suffer. Or I will need to figure out a better inlining algorithm that does this automatically. Alright, so rewriting the grammar. For that, I actually thought about this off stream, and I wrote a little demo just for myself to see how it would turn out. And to rewrite the grammar, I think I need one more layer of indirection, because I don't want to work directly with this these RHS and alt, these things that have actions attached to them and have all sorts of metadata, and I guess they need to be created in a special way, right? That are really meant to be created from the grammar itself. I don't think I want to create these alts by hand, or well, in my script. So and also these are not really written for the use cases I have in mind, which is well, simplification. If I have a group of a list of options inside an RHS, then I will want to merge them, and I want to detect that we have this situation. Or if I the thing here, if I have a repeat 1 that's optional, I want to make it a repeat 0. If I ever end up with something that's optional twice, I want to only make it optional once. Things like that. And I don't want to use the actual grammar node classes for that. So this need for one more layer might be even more important once I get to the railroad diagrams, which then take this sort of tree, and basically I will need to create yet another tree with the classes from the diagramming tool. So I'll basically need 3 representations of the same tree structure. One is the one from the grammar itself. One will be for making modifications and simplifications to it, and one will be then afterwards for the railroad diagrams. Right? This is. I won't show how I arrived at this decision to make a separate class, separate kind of class for this, but hopefully it'll make the work easier in the end. So what I will need to do is, instead of formatting nodes, I will want to convert this to data classes, basically. So import that, and instead of format node, I will write a function called convert to what will I call these? Convert to my classes. Right, and what I will do here is match the grammar node, and let's say if it's one of the simple ones, we'll want to return well, maybe this is not the simple one. So named item is the rule, so like rule reference with this no dot item. Wait, no, that's not named item. That would be name leaf. Sorry. So if it's name leaf, I want to return my own class called reference to rule, which and in this way I'll basically build an alternate tree structure. Right? Hope that makes sense. Hope Sphinx didn't eat all my memory again. Oh, it did. Hopefully the stream didn't stutter then. Well, this is... maybe Sphinx is not meant to be called in a loop. I don't know. Anyway, this is unfortunately all the time I have for today. So thank you for listening. Please ask questions next time. If you join the stream live, it'll be much more fun. And I'll see you next week. Maybe I'll work on this offline a bit. Maybe not. Thank you, Lysandros, for the comments. They were very helpful. Then see y'all.